Speaker.
Call Melissa Lee.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. I am actually very glad that that member sat down saying that he does support the bill. And we are in agreement. This bill enhances New Zealand's ability to cope with international oil supply disruptions, and we all know what could trigger that. The National-led government is committed to improving New Zealand's oil security through the business growth agenda, and it is an important part of this is the sustainable and user-paced funding of our oil stock holding obligations with the International Energy Agency, and that is the obligation that the previous member was talking about as well, sir. This bill allows for the cost of meeting New Zealand's oil stock holding treaty obligations under the agreement on an international energy program to be met through an adjustable levy on fuels. New Zealand has a treaty obligation under the agreement on an international energy program to contribute 90 days of net oil imports to the IEA oil stockholding. The collective stockholding mitigates the market power of oil-producing countries, and releasing stock during an IEA-declared oil supply emergency helps to moderate extreme price spikes. Normal commercial inventories held by oil companies in New Zealand contributes to New Zealand's obligations, sir. The remainder of the obligation is met through the Crown entering into a ticket contracts with oil companies and traders in other IEA countries. There is an impending rise in the ticket requirement principally due to a forecast decline of domestic oil production in the medium term. And domestic oil production contributes to the stock that New Zealand is required to actually hold in this country. Therefore, a decrease will contribute to the amount of ticket contracts the government must hold with other governments who have net excess oil reserved to their own 90-day obligation. So ticket must be backed up by government-to-government agreement that stipulates that the host country will impede the release of the stock in the event of an IEA emergency. To date, New Zealand actually has entered into agreement and has held tickets in Australia, Japan, Netherlands, Denmark, and United Kingdom, sir. Stock holding costs have previously been funded through general taxation. As the Minister had said in his speech, this bill allows for the cost to be instead met through the existing petroleum or engine fuel monitoring levy. So the forecast cost of the current method of meeting New Zealand's IEA stock holding obligation, the ticketing regime as such, will not be fully funded by the existing Vote Energy appropriation. In the absence of further intervention, New Zealand would become non-compliant with its IEA treaty obligations, sir. It is like, I guess this whole thing is like, you know, quitting your insurance premium. It might sort of alleviate some short-term cash flow problems, but it doesn't do anything for your reputation with your bank that holds your mortgage. So non-compliance with New Zealand's treaty obligation is likely to result in significant damage to New Zealand's international reputation. And I guess that's one of the reasons why the opposition supports this bill as well, that we have international obligation. It is likely that a number of New Zealand's closest partners would perceive New Zealand to be free-riding on the collective international oil security arrangements and would exert pressure on New Zealand to comply as well. So oil security is closely linked to security generally, and oil security is a key driver of the foreign and security policies of many IEA OECD countries, sir. Non-compliance may, for example, have implications for our trade agreements that are already in existence or trade agreements that we could go into with those countries. What this bill does, sir, is shift the ticket costs from general taxation to a levy of 0.113 cents per litre on fuels, which literally only amounts to about 4.5 cents for a 40-litre tank. The forecast revenue is roughly around 20 million over the next 3 fiscal years. The root cause of the rising cost of our IEA obligation is the forecast decline of domestic oil production in the medium term, as I had actually earlier alluded. However, I think the MB expects that recent increase in petroleum exploration activities to result in an upturn in domestic oil production in the medium to long term, which will result in the downturn of the ticket cost that we have. So this bill provides a sustainable funding source for New Zealand's International Energy Agency oil stock holding obligations and realigns existing funding mechanisms so oil consumers, rather than general taxpayers, apportion the costs. It is important. The modern world relies on vast energy supply to fuel everything from transportation. And I know that some members actually don't agree that transportation is actually important to our economy. Also communication to security and health delivers, delivery systems. And I actually talked about the transport delivering for our exporters as well as manufacturers earlier in the day. So energy plays an important role in the national security of any given country as a fuel to power the economic engine, sir. Petroleum, or otherwise known as crude oil, has become the resource most used by countries all around the world, including Russia, China, and the United States of America. All 28 members of the International Energy Agency hold a minimum of 90 days of their oil imports. This is about our energy security, which affects our economic security, sir. And as we all know, New Zealand's economy is actually growing. It's actually performing way better than other countries, and thank God for the National Party for that, national government for that. And this is our commitment to the international agreement that is currently before us, as New Zealand is in fact too small to mitigate the international oil supply disruptions on its own, sir. The collective arrangement under the International Energy Agency is our best option for dealing with such disruptions, and New Zealand and the ticket we're talking about is about 150,000 tons, sir, of crude oil and refined petroleum products. And we have 2 new government-to-government agreement that actually sort of happened in the last 2 years, I think, and that's with Denmark and Sweden. And we've done a lot of work in this area, and I commend this bill to the House. Oh, no, I had one more.
I call Claire Curran.
Thank you.